Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Newly released surveillance video from Nancy Guthrie's home.
She did not want to leave DNA.
What a person is seen doing the morning she vanished. Also on this Tuesday night, building bridges instead of burning them. The Prime Minister's response after the U.S. President threatens to block the opening of an international bridge.
So it was a positive conversation.
We'll fact-check Donald Trump's claims. The dangers of Dr. AI, the risks of relying on the technology for medical advice. Plus, hardware that's not award-winning. What's up with the broken Olympic medals?
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. For the first time since Nancy Guthrie vanished from her Arizona home more than a week ago, video has been released showing a masked figure approaching her front door in the middle of the night. The FBI says it managed to recover these images from the doorbell camera. A masked person who the FBI says is armed appears to tamper with the camera, which police say was taken the night Guthrie vanished. They are asking for the public's help in identifying the person. Today's show co-host Savannah Guthrie, the daughter of Nancy, reposted the photos today saying, "We believe she is alive. Bring her home." Jackson Prosco takes us through exactly what those images reveal.
The chilling doorbell video shows a person masked and apparently armed approaching Nancy Guthrie's front door in the dark. They try to block the camera with their gloved hand before turning around to grab a plant from the ground. They return again and try to obscure the lens with the leaves. The images were obtained from what the FBI says was back-end data from Guthrie's missing doorbell, which the local sheriff had previously declared unrecoverable.
At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available.
We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
The new evidence came less than 24 hours after a fresh plea from Guthrie's daughter Savannah, just before a $6 million ransom deadline passed Monday night.
We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help.
This does signal a dramatic shift in how this is being approached. There are a number of possibilities for that. One could be that the kidnappers have broken off communication or they haven't provided additional information.
There's been no reported contact with the abductors, and there are no firm leads on the whereabouts of the missing 84-year-old.
James Fitzgerald is a retired FBI criminal profiler. James, we know we're seeing a lot of heavy artillery going to this location. They should be there momentarily. What about all the activity at the daughter's house? There seems to be an overwhelming amount of FBI and police officers there going door to door.
Yeah, Jesse, there's a lot of coordinated activity taking place today, probably over the last 48 hours, ever since these video pictures have become present and shown to the family. They're denying they know anyone that looks like that. We believe them, but something else is still attracting police. Now, apparently, bomb squad, as you said, and even the SWAT teams up to Annie's house for whatever reason. I don't know how big their property is, what kind of neighbors they have around there. Do they have problem neighbors? Is that someone who they're suspecting may be involved here? I know the family can't be ruled out. But the bottom line is, with these videos, the monster of Tucson, and we finally have seen his face. All we got to do is take that mask off, and I think that may be coming sooner than later.
What did you see in his face? You saw a little mustache, some pretty well manicured eyebrows, they're saying.
Yeah, and I said all along this person was mission oriented to successfully complete this abduction, which he did. But looking at this video, it looks like it wasn't implemented all that smoothly, and this may explain now why there was that missing 41 minutes or so that this person may have been in the house. I don't think he's clever enough to put like a fake mustache in there or fake eyebrows of some sort. I don't think we have that level of sophistication here. I also don't think, he's the guy that rips off the cell phones in the subway or steals the car and turns it over to the big boss. They get $50 for what they do. If there is a second person involved, if this by chance is an actual kidnapping for profit, then this is just the muscle that goes north. He may have some muscles, but from what I'm seeing, how this guy is interacting on this camera, not too much in the way of brains, including how he's carrying the weapon, the backpack, which looks like a parachute. Who knows what else is in there? He should have duct tape or black electrical tape to put over the camera. Instead, he picks up some flora, out of the garden. There's just nothing that makes sense about this guy, except that he's not a professional home invader or abductor in that regard. This is probably his first time, depending mostly on movies and TV shows, and not the very good ones either.
Yeah, I think you're...
David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day. One most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight, the breaking news in the case of Savannah Guthrie's mother. The FBI releasing the first chilling images of a subject in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Tonight, we'll take you frame by frame through the video now recovered from Nancy Guthrie's missing front door camera. An armed masked man at the front door, his eyes visible, wearing gloves, carrying a backpack, a weapon tucked in his waistband. The subject appearing to tamper with the camera. Tonight, Savannah Guthrie saying of her mother, "We believe she is still alive. Bring her home." Aaron Katursky standing by live tonight with what we've now learned. Also tonight, the Jeffrey Epstein case, new questions about what President Trump knew about Epstein's sex crimes and when. And the president's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, who said he broke ties with Epstein back in 2005, calling him gross. He admitted today he was on Epstein's private island years later, and after Epstein was tonight the heated testimony on Capitol Hill over the immigrations in Minneapolis and beyond. Top Homeland Security officials grilled following the shooting deaths of mother of three Renee Good and the VA ICU nurse Alex Preddy. You'll hear how they answered. A passenger plane crashing on takeoff coming down on a nearby beach. The passengers could be seen walking off the plane. The urgent manhunt tonight for two murder suspects who broke out of jail. The fugitives on the loose for nearly 11 hours before the public was notified. Tonight, the mix of snow and ice now coming, a clipper system from Michigan to the northeast, what the New York City area will see. And the Olympics tonight, the American skater this evening whose parents died in a plane crash, and what he said about them. And the big question tonight, why are the Olympic medals breaking apart?
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
This is DW News, live from Berlin. Iran commemorates the anniversary of the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Multiple events are planned across the country to mark the date, but this year's celebrations are being overshadowed by Tehran's brutal crackdown on anti-government demonstrations earlier this year. Also coming up, Cuba's energy crisis deepens as airlines cancel flights to and from the island over fuel shortages. The US has suspended oil shipments, threatening Cuba's vital tourism industry and people's livelihoods. Anthony Howard, welcome to the program. We begin with breaking news from Canada, where authorities say at least 10 people have been killed in a school shooting in a remote area of British Columbia. The shooter is thought to be among the dead. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police said the incident took place at the Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. 2 more people were found dead at a nearby home believed to be connected to the incident. We'll bring you more on that story as it updates.
Thanks for staying with us on Night Watch here on France 24. These are our main stories this hour. Victims of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse gather on Capitol Hill to announce Virginia's law, a bill that would remove the statute of limitations for survivors of sex crimes to file civil lawsuits. Democrats introduced the legislation named after Virginia Giuffre, one of the most well-known survivors of Epstein's abuse, who died by suicide last year. Israel's Prime Minister is on his way to Washington for talks with Donald Trump. Benjamin Netanyahu says he'll push for the US to take a harder line on negotiations with Iran over its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Tehran has repeatedly insisted its defensive capabilities are not up for discussion. And after 25 years of socialist rule, Conservatives are hoping that Paris City Hall could swing back to the right in next month's municipal elections. But they may have a job to do, because Emmanuel Gregoire, the would-be successor to Anne Hidalgo, is currently leading the polls. Let's begin this bulletin, though, with breaking news from Canada, where at least 9 people have been killed by a shooter in British Columbia, according to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. 6 bodies were found at a secondary school, along with an individual believed to be the shooter, as well as another 2 bodies at a residence in the quiet town of Tumbler Ridge. The suspected assailant has been described as a woman. Well, for the latest, we're joined by our correspondent, Craig McCulloch, who's in Vancouver. Craig, very good to have you along this morning in this tragic situation for the quiet community in British Columbia. What are we hearing from police at the moment? Is the shooting incident believed to be over?
The incident is believed to be over, and they are saying that the shooter is deceased at the scene from self-inflicted wounds. They're not saying what type of wounds, nor are they describing what type of weapons, or there were multiple weapons. They're also saying that the alleged suspect does match the description that was put out in an alert that locked down basically the entire community at 1:20 p.m. local time, and that identity was of a female wearing a dress. So it looks like we're dealing with a female shooter, which is very rare for these type of school shootings.
TV and ABC iView.
Today, Israel's president arrives in the nation's capital amid an increased police presence.
This was an important thing for the local Jewish community. It was the wrong decision to invite President Herzog at this time.
Liberal frontbenchers plot an exodus to build momentum for a potential leadership spill. A record level of serious incidents in the childcare sector during a drop in staff quality. And Team Australia suffers injury blows at the Winter Olympics. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Rose Childs. Israeli President Isaac Herzog has arrived in Canberra for the next part of his official visit to Australia. Mr. Herzog is receiving a ceremonial welcome at Government House after touching down in the capital alongside Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. His presence has again fueled anger among some in the community, with protesters gathering outside Parliament House. Political reporter Samantha Dick is in Parliament House and joined us now. Hi, Sam. So what's Isaac Herzog's itinerary for Canberra?
Hello, Ros. Well, Israeli President Isaac Herzog arrived in Canberra this morning along with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The PM hosted President Herzog for a dinner at Kirribilli House in Sydney last night as part of his trip around Australia. Now, after touching down in Canberra, President Herzog was greeted with a ceremonial welcome at Government House, which is the official residence of Australia's Governor-General Sam Mostyn. There, he'll attend a state lunch hosted by Ms Mostyn who invited the president at the request of Anthony Albanese. It comes after 2 days in Sydney where President Herzog met with first responders and Jewish students, as well as with the families of the victims of the Bondi terror attack. He also attended an event at the Chabad of Bondi Synagogue with Anthony Albanese as well. Now, Health Minister Mark Bala spoke to reporters in Canberra this morning where he said that President Herzog's visit was important to Australia's Jewish community.
Look, I think this was an important thing for the local Jewish community, the Australian Jewish community, which is grieving, which is going through deep pain and which is frightened. They wanted to receive a visit from the Israeli president, the equivalent of our Governor General, it's important to say. That's why we supported the invitation from the Governor General.
But not everyone in Parliament House is welcoming the visit, Sam.
Yeah, that's right. So President Herzog's visit to Canberra comes after a turbulent 2 days in Sydney, which saw violent...
Hello, you're watching Sky News. I'm Nick Qureshi. Here are the headlines. Justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. A renewed call from Virginia Giuffre's family for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to head to the US.
What is your message to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor?
I think he should show up in front of our Congress and answer questions.
The former boss of MI6 tells Sky News the Epstein files reveal the appalling systemic abuse of women and girls. It says he played no part in the vetting process for Peter Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador. Sir Keir Starmer says he will lead Labour into the next election as his former communications chief apologises for an association with a paedophile counsellor. Plus, the FBI release new doorbell camera footage of a masked man in their search for the missing mother of the US television presenter. Hello, good morning. Nice to see you on Sky News. There is renewed pressure this morning from victims of Jeffrey Epstein for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to travel to the US and give evidence to the authorities. It is led by Sky Roberts, whose sister Virginia Giuffre received an out-of-court settlement in 2022 over claims of sexual abuse, something the former prince has always denied. However, the bill in the US removing time limitations on convictions for sexual crimes is now being launched in Virginia's memory. Our US correspondent Mark Stone has this report.
Stand with survivors and say no more.
The time for justice is now, and Congress must act.
No longer can abusers weaponize the clock. Survivors can act when they're ready to act.
The victims, the survivors, they are at the heart of a scandal that now has so many strands. And they were in the US Congress today, led by the brother of the woman whose teenage photo came to define the scandal.
Virginia's dream was to inspire and empower survivors to come forward. In a world that too often turns away from abuse and pushes it into the shadows, she wanted to bring light.
Virginia Giuffre, once Virginia Roberts, and once at the heart of Jeffrey Epstein's orbit. This photo, with a prince as he was, sparked the scandal in the UK. It led them both to court. In the end, he settled and paid her a sum undisclosed. He continues to deny wrongdoing. The photograph of the then Prince Andrew with his arm around your sister has become, certainly in the UK, a defining part of this scandal. Clearly, he is one person who hasn't answered questions here. What is your message to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor today, please?
I think he should show up in front of our Congress and answer questions. I think that he has a lot of questions he needs to answer, and he has been exploited through these files to have inconsistencies in his own messaging. So I want today to be about Virginia's law, to not allowing this to happen again, but to Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, to be specific. He needs to show up. He needs to show up, and he needs to answer questions in front of our Congress.
And Senator Schumer,
Same thing as what Sky said. He ought to show up and show up now.
that's significant. Chuck Schumer is the most senior Democratic Party politician in America. Quite the statement.
Africa News. The news.
Nigerian lawmakers have made a sharp U-turn, approving the live electronic publication of election results after a wave of public backlash. Just last week, the Senate had rejected a proposal that would force polling units to upload results in real time, a move that sparked outrage across the country. Hundreds of protesters even gathered outside Parliament, accusing lawmakers of trying to weaken transparency. Now, after an emergency meeting, the Senate says it has unanimously approved electronic transmission of results once voting and all required procedures are complete at polling stations. Lawmakers say the reversal will boost public confidence and allow citizens to follow elections more transparently, a key issue as Nigeria heads towards general elections in early 2027. Nigeria has about 170,000 polling units, and experts argue that publishing results instantly on a central public platform could help restore trust in a system plagued by disputed outcomes and endless court cases. Trust has been fading for years. Just 27% voted in 2023, the lowest turnout since 1999. The Gates Foundation is pushing back against social media claims that Bill Gates is behind a sudden spike in mosquitoes in Kenya. The rumours led by politician Paul Nuriti on X suggested genetically modified mosquitoes were being released to target malaria, but instead were biting children and the elderly. The foundation was clear in a statement. It said it doesn't release mosquitoes, insisting it doesn't run labs that do that. It stressed that all its work in Kenya follows national laws and local oversight. Its role, it says, is to support Kenyan-led health priorities, working alongside the government's researchers and public health partners, not dictating policy or bypassing local authorities. While the social media post sparked a lot of concern, malaria prevention in Kenya is firmly in the hands of the National Malaria Control Program, which handles insect nets and indoor spraying. The Gates Foundation does fund research into innovative tools like the World Mosquito Program and Target Malaria, but all operations in Kenya are handled by local experts under strict regulation. Tensions are rising in Senegal after a medical student died during clashes between police and protesters demanding delayed grant payments. Students at Sheikh Anta Diop University in Dakar have been ordered to leave campus, leaving many uncertain about what comes next as the standoff deepens. It was the head of the COUD who ordered the closure of the social campus starting at noon. That is why students were forced to take all their belongings and to return to where they live. Our comrade Mr. Bar passed away yesterday. This is not normal at all. In any case, we do not want this kind of thing to happen. This must be resolved, and it must be resolved once and for all. We will not wait 2 or 3 days to issue a statement and then come back. We will continue to fight. As long as the back payments are not paid, we will continue to fight until our arrears and the full payment on scholarships are made. The student movement says the government is trying to permanently stop scholarship arrears, fueling anger and uncertainty across the campus. It is about the issue of scholarships. They want to eliminate the back payments. They spoke of reforms, but in my view, it is a removal. They said they would only pay the main amount without paying the arrears, with explanations that were not clear. That is why many students reject this proposal. In Senegal, 3/4 of the population is under 35, fueling hopes for change when President Bassirou Diomaye Faye was elected.
This is Asia Now.
Hello and good morning. It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 8:30 in New Delhi, 10 o'clock in Jakarta.
I'm Yasmin Yonkers at this hour. Indonesia becomes the first country to pledge troops to Gaza under phase 2 of a U.S. brokered ceasefire. Up to 8,000 soldiers are being prepared for a possible peacekeeping mission. India orders platforms like Meta, YouTube, and X to remove unlawful posts within 3 hours of notice. Experts warn the rule may be hard to enforce in a nation of over 1 billion internet users, fueling censorship concerns. And protesters gather in Canberra as Israeli President Isaac Herzog visits the city. Heavy police presence at Parliament House following Monday's clashes and arrests in Sydney. Indonesia is preparing to deploy up to 8,000 troops to Gaza for peacekeeping missions in the enclave. And it is the first country to publicly commit troops to the International Stabilization Force as part of phase 2 of the U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement. And a spokesperson for Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto said the proposed multinational peacekeeping force could total around 20,000 troops, but added that deployment terms and areas of operation remain under negotiation. Israel's public broadcaster earlier reported that an area in southern Gaza, that's between Rafah and Khan Yunis, has been allocated for the Indonesian army to build their barracks. Indonesia's defense ministry denied the report.
Thank you for watching. I'm Shakil 5858. I hope you will come again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.